You won't believe what happened to me yesterday. She mocked me, humiliated me in front of everyone, made me feel like I was nothing. But that wasn't the shocking part. The shocking part came a few months later when she reached out to me, asking for money. Yes, the same person who tore me down is now asking me to help her out. How could she even have the nerve to ask? I know I might sound heartless, but when you hear this whole story, you'll understand exactly why I did what I did. Trust me, this is not a simple case of helping a friend out. It's about respect. It's about what you've already done to me and whether that's something I should ever forgive. And I bet you'll be just as torn as I was by the end of this. So, before I dive in, let me ask you, what would you do in my situation? If you're going through something like this right now, comment the number 1 so I know I'm not alone. Like this video if you've ever felt betrayed by someone you trusted. And subscribe if you believe that even forgotten stories deserve to be heard. Let's get into it. You won't see this coming. My name is Cecilia, and I always thought of myself as someone who wasn't easily affected by the opinions of others. But what happened next showed me how wrong I was. Lena was my best friend for years. We met in college, and from the start, it felt like we were inseparable. We shared everything: our dreams, our fears, even our worst mistakes. We spent hours late at night, talking about our future, planning out what life would look like once we had our degrees, once we made it. For a while, she was the person I leaned on the most. But then, things started to change. At first, it was subtle little jabs here and there, playful remarks that I told myself were just jokes. But those jokes, they started to feel different. I remember the first time it hit me, when we were at a party together. I mentioned a project I was working on, something that I was excited about. Lena just laughed, cutting me off mid-sentence. Looks like you'll never get that right, huh? It wasn't a joke anymore. The entire room went quiet for a second. And me? I stood there, trying to smile, but something inside me cracked. I didn't understand it at first, but the more I thought about it, the more it became clear she wasn't supporting me anymore. She was tearing me down. I tried to shrug it off, but the behavior kept escalating. She started to put me down more frequently, in front of others, making me feel small. Every little thing I did was either a joke to her or an opportunity to belittle me. At first, I thought I was being too sensitive, but when it happened again and again, I began to question whether our friendship meant anything to her at all. Mark, my husband, noticed something too. One night he looked at me with concern, like he could see right through my act. "Cecilia, are you okay? You seem off," he asked. I wanted to brush it off and tell him I was fine, but the truth was, I wasn't. I hadn't been for a while. Lena's words were getting to me, and even though Mark tried to reassure me, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. One evening, we ran into Lena and her new boyfriend at a get-together. She was all smiles, but I couldn't ignore how her laughter seemed forced. The way she looked at Mate was almost like she was trying to distance herself. I caught myself wondering if it was all in my head, but deep down, I knew something had shifted between us. She was acting distant, cold, and I was left wondering if I was just imagining it or if I had been blind to the growing gap between us. Then came the text. It was late one night when I saw a message from Lena pop up on my phone. My stomach dropped as I read her words. "Hey, Cecilia, I've been struggling. I lost my job, and things are really tough right now. Could you help me out with some money?" I couldn't believe it. The same person who had humiliated me in front of our friends, who had belittled me for months, was now asking me for financial help. My mind was racing. How could she do this? How could she just turn around after everything she put me through and ask for my help? I sat there staring at the screen, torn between the anger I felt and a nagging feeling of guilt. Mark's face flashed in my mind, his concern, his worry about me. He always said I should be more careful with who I trust. And here I was, facing the girl who had torn me down, now asking for a favor. Was I a bad person for even thinking about saying no? Was I being too hard on her? Or was I finally seeing her for who she really was? It was hard to ignore the tiny signs, the things I had brushed off before. Lena's sudden coldness, her dismissive attitude, the way she'd slowly cut herself out of my life. And now this. She had crossed a line, but the question was, could I move on from it, or would I let it define me? Every part of me wanted to say no, to stand my ground and make her realize how badly she'd treated me. But what if she really needed help? What if this time she was being sincere? I didn't know what to do, but I couldn't ignore the feeling that something deeper was at play here, something I couldn't just overlook anymore. This was no longer just about money. It was about trust, about respect, and about the friendship I thought I had. I should have known better. I should have seen the signs. But I didn't until that moment, the moment when everything I thought I knew about Lena came crashing down. It all started when I ran into her at the coffee shop. It wasn't like we planned to meet. In fact, I was hoping to avoid her as much as possible. But there she was, sitting by the window, her laptop open, her phone buzzing constantly. The last time I saw Lena was a few weeks ago at a mutual friend's party. She barely acknowledged me then, and I didn't want to make it more awkward by reaching out. But this time, it felt different. Something in the air was off. I don't know if it was the way she was fidgeting with her phone or the look in her eyes, but there was a tension between us that I couldn't ignore. It wasn't just the guilt or the past between us. It felt like something bigger was looming. I debated whether to even say anything, but before I could turn around and leave, she caught my eye. Her face instantly softened, like she was trying to pretend nothing had happened. "Cecilia, I didn't expect to see you here," she said, flashing that bright, familiar smile. But I wasn't fooled anymore. It didn't feel genuine. I walked over, hesitating for a moment, and sat down across from her. The air between us was thick, and I could feel every second dragging on. "How have you been?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, though my heart was racing. "I'm good. Busy, you know. Work and everything," she replied, tapping away on her phone. But I wasn't buying it. There was something in her voice, something in the way she couldn't look me in the eye, that made me uneasy. I tried to shake it off, but then, out of nowhere, my phone buzzed. I looked down at the screen, and my heart nearly stopped. It was a notification from my bank. I didn't recognize the amount. Someone had transferred a substantial sum of money to my account. 50, to be exact. I froze. My mind raced, but I had to hold it together. This couldn't be happening. I checked the name on the transfer, and my blood ran cold. It was from Lena. Why the hell is she sending me money? I thought. My stomach dropped. This didn't make sense. First, she mocked me for my career choice, belittled me in front of our friends, and now she was sending me money? What kind of game was she playing? I looked up at her. She was still scrolling through her phone, completely unaware that I had just discovered her latest move. I felt a flash of anger surge through me. How dare she try to manipulate me like this? The thought of it made my skin crawl. Was she really going to play the "I need help" card again, after everything she had done? "Lena," I said, my voice cold, making her glance up at me. "Why did you send me money?" She blinked, caught off guard, and for a brief moment, I saw something in her eyes, a flicker of panic. But it quickly vanished, replaced by her usual smile. "What do you mean? I just thought you might need it." I could barely contain my frustration. "Don't play me for a fool. Why would you send me that much money, out of the blue?" Lena's smile faltered. For a split second she hesitated, her eyes darting nervously. "Look, I just wanted to make things right between us. I know I've been a jerk, okay? I've been stupid, but I'm trying to fix it. Please, just take it. I'm sorry." Her words hit me like a slap to the face. It wasn't the apology I was expecting. It wasn't even an apology at all. It was an attempt to manipulate me, to make me feel guilty for not accepting her money. It was classic Lena. First, she mocks me, puts me down, and now, when she needs something, she thinks throwing money at me will make it all better. I wanted to scream. My mind was racing. The anger, the betrayal, I couldn't ignore it anymore. But what was worse? I couldn't understand why she was doing this. Was this her idea of an apology? Was she trying to buy back my trust? I stood up abruptly, unable to sit there any longer. "This isn't about money, Lena," I said, my voice sharp. "It's about respect. You've humiliated me for months, and now you think a transfer is going to fix everything?" She looked up at me, her expression shifting from feigned confidence to something darker. "Cecilia, don't be like this. I'm trying here. Can't you see that?" But it was too late. Everything in me screamed that I couldn't be part of her game anymore. I turned and walked away, leaving Lena staring after me, the money she'd transferred still looming between us like a ghost of the past. I didn't know what was worse, the fact that she thought I could just forgive her with a gesture like this, or the realization that I had let her get this far into my life without seeing the warning signs sooner. As I walked out of the coffee shop, my phone buzzed again. Another notification, another transfer from Lena. This time, I didn't look at the screen. I already knew what was happening. I had to end it, and I had to do it now. The game was over. I wish I could say that walking away from Lena that day gave me peace, but it didn't. Instead, something in my gut told me I hadn't seen the whole picture yet. There was more to the story more than Lena was letting on. I tried to shake the feeling, but deep down, I knew I was being naive. Lena wasn't just playing games. She had something bigger in mind. The next few days were a blur. I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. I thought about the money she'd sent, the desperate look in her eyes, the way she tried to act as if nothing had ever changed between us. But everything had changed. There was no going back after what she did. I told myself I would be done with her, no matter what she tried to pull next. But then, the bombshell came. I was sitting at home, trying to focus on work, when my phone buzzed. A new notification, this time from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something in me stopped. I opened the message, and what I read made my blood run cold. It was a screenshot from Lena's phone. And the message she sent, well, it wasn't to me, it was to someone else. Someone I never expected to be involved in this mess. The message read, "Cecilia's such an idiot. She actually thinks I need help. Wait until she realizes how much I'm going to make off this. I'm going to play the good friend, get her to help me with the money for a little while, and then I'll turn it into something bigger." My hands were shaking. I read it again, and again. My brain couldn't process what I was seeing. It was clear now. Lena wasn't just playing me for money. She had been setting me up all along. This wasn't about an apology or reconciliation. This was about manipulation, using my trust for something much worse. I scrolled down through the conversation. There, in black and white, was the name of the person she had been talking to. The one she was actually working with. It was Mark, my husband. I froze. How? Why? Mark, the one person who had always been there for me, who knew everything about my struggles and my fears, was in on this. They were planning this whole thing together. The money, the fake apologies, everything, it was all part of a twisted game. And I had been the pawn. I couldn't breathe. My hands were clammy, and my heart felt like it was about to explode out of my chest. I rushed to the living room where Mark was sitting, his usual calm demeanor never once hinting at the storm that was brewing in my mind. "Mark," I said, my voice trembling, "what the hell is this?" I shoved the phone in his face. The message from Lena, glowing on the screen. His face went pale, and I watched as the color drained from his skin. He tried to speak, but no words came out. For a moment, we just stood there, him trying to form an explanation, and me too stunned to process what was happening. Cecilia, I can explain. Explain? I interrupted, my voice rising. How the hell do you explain this? How could you do this to me, Mark? How could you be involved in this? All along you were working with her. He stepped back, his hands held up in a defensive gesture. Cecilia, please, just listen. Listen to what? I shouted. That you've been lying to me? That you've been conspiring with Lena? That this whole time you've been using me for whatever the hell it is you two wanted to get out of me? I felt the rage building inside of me, my mind spinning as the truth unfolded before me. Mark was in on it from the start, playing the role of the supportive husband while secretly manipulating me with Lena. The worst part, I had trusted him more than anyone else. I'd never thought in a million years that he would betray me like this. Tears of anger streamed down my face as I took a step back, my legs weak beneath me. I can't believe this, I whispered. I can't believe you, both of you. Mark's eyes filled with guilt, but there was nothing he could say to fix this. His face was full of regret, but regret didn't change the fact that he had been part of the plan. I never meant for it to go this far, he finally said, his voice shaking. But it's too late now. I've already lost you, haven't I? In that moment, I realized just how deep the betrayal went. Mark wasn't just a victim of Lena's manipulation. He had been complicit in the entire scheme, helping her to play me like a fool. Everything I had believed about our relationship, everything I had thought was real, shattered in an instant. I had been living a lie. I stumbled back, my head spinning. I couldn't think, couldn't breathe. It felt like the ground beneath me was slipping away. I never want to see you again, I managed to say, my voice barely a whisper. And just like that, everything I had known, everything I thought I could trust, collapsed. I walked out, not knowing where I was going, but knowing I couldn't stay there. Not with him. Not with Lena. I didn't know who to trust anymore. All I could feel was a hollow, aching emptiness. The people I loved, the people I trusted, had been playing me all along, and now I was left to pick up the pieces of a life I never truly understood. The truth had finally been revealed, but at what cost? The days that followed felt like a blur. Everything that had once been familiar, the places, the faces now felt foreign. I couldn't breathe without feeling the weight of the betrayal on my chest. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Lena's face, her fake smile, and then Mark's pleading eyes, the guilt in his voice. I could still hear him, his soft, desperate words. I never meant for it to go this far. But it didn't matter what he said anymore. The damage had already been done. Lena was gone. I hadn't heard from her since that day in the coffee shop. She didn't even try to reach out after everything was exposed. It was like she'd vanished into thin air, as if she had never been a part of my life at all. And for that, a strange part of me felt, to relief. The air seemed a little less heavy when I didn't have to see her face or hear her voice. But there was no joy in it. The damage was still there, deep in my soul, like a wound that wouldn't heal. Mark, on the other hand, didn't disappear as easily. No, he stayed. I couldn't escape him. He was still in the house we had shared, the one we had built together, but it felt like he wasn't really there. I moved around the apartment, barely acknowledging him, as if he were a stranger. He tried to talk to me, to explain himself, but I couldn't listen anymore. Every word from him felt like another lie, another betrayal. I had trusted him with everything, my love, my heart, and he had crushed it, all for some twisted game with Lena. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I packed a bag and left. I didn't know where I was going, but I needed to get away, to clear my head, to find some peace. I couldn't look at him anymore, couldn't breathe the same air. So I left, driving aimlessly through the city, the darkness outside matching the turmoil inside me. I didn't even call him. I didn't owe him any explanation. I stayed at a friend's place for a few days, just enough time to think. The pain was suffocating. It wasn't just the betrayal, it was the humiliation, the fact that I had been blind to everything. How could I not have seen it? How could I not have known that the two people I trusted the most were conspiring behind my back? I kept thinking about the good times, the moments when I thought we were a team, when everything felt real. How could that all have been a lie? I asked myself that question over and over, but no answer came. The trust I had in Mark, in Lena, was shattered beyond repair. It was gone, and there was no getting it back. Days turned into weeks, and still I couldn't face him. Mark reached out, texted me, called, but I couldn't bring myself to respond. Every message felt like a reminder of the life we had shared, and how easily it had all come crumbling down. I felt guilty, so guilty, because part of me still wanted to forgive him. Part of me still loved him, even after everything, but I knew I couldn't. Not after what he had done, not after the lies, not after Lena. I wanted to forget them both. I wanted to move on and find peace, but the scars they left were too deep. It wasn't just about them. It was about me, about the person I had become because of them. How could I ever trust again? How could I ever open my heart to anyone after this? I still haven't heard from Lena. I don't know if I ever will, but part of me doesn't care. I'm done with her. But with Mark? That's harder. He's still my husband, still the man I promised to love forever. But that promise is broken now. It's a hard truth to face, but I have to. I can't keep living in a lie. And so, the silence stretched on. The empty space in our home, in my heart, grew wider with each passing day. But it was the silence I needed. Because for the first time, I was finally starting to hear myself again. I wasn't sure where I was going next, or what the future held. But I knew one thing: I couldn't go back to the way things were. That chapter of my life was over. And now, I had to figure out who I was without them. Maybe, just maybe, I could find myself again. But for now, the pain was all I had, and I had to learn how to live with it. The Reddit thread exploded as soon as I shared my story. The reactions were a chaotic mix of support, criticism, and some downright hilarious commentary. It was clear people had strong opinions, and they weren't holding back. Some users rallied behind me, offering support that I didn't even know I needed. "You're better off without them," one person said, echoing my own thoughts. "You can't come back from that level of betrayal. They don't deserve another minute of your time. Move on, and let them deal with the mess they've made." Others, however, were quick to point out what they saw as my mistakes. "Honestly, you didn't see this coming," someone wrote. "Lena was manipulating you from the start. And Mark? He was already acting weird. You should have trusted your instincts." While it hurt to hear, part of me knew it was true. How had I missed the signs? But that was the thing about betrayal: it's hard to see when you're too close to it. One comment made me laugh, though. Someone had summed up Mark's behavior perfectly. Mark really thought he could play the "I didn't mean it" card. This isn't a rom-com, dude. It was exactly the kind of thing I had wanted to say to his face, but the humor didn't take away from the sting. How could he have been so blind to what he'd done? And worse, how did he think I would just forgive him after everything? Then there were the ones who couldn't help but add a little more harsh truth to the mix. "Don't let them back in," one user said. "Take the money they gave you and burn it. It's dirty money now." I couldn't help but agree. Lena's money meant nothing now. It felt tainted by everything that had happened. But amid the anger and the criticism, some users offered a bit of comfort. "You're going to look back on this and realize it was a blessing," someone commented. "This is the kind of thing that makes you stronger, smarter. Yeah, it sucks now, but you'll come out of it with more clarity about who you want to keep in your life. That, for a moment, gave me a glimmer of hope. The thread was full of contrasting opinions, but one thing was clear. Everyone saw what Lena and Mark had done as unforgivable. The comments ranged from rage and disappointment to empathy and encouragement. Some people wanted to see me take a stand, while others urged me to walk away from it all. But no one was under any illusion about the depth of betrayal, and no one, it seemed, was willing to let either of them off the hook. For a brief moment, the anger and support from the comments almost made me feel like I wasn't alone. I wasn't the only one who had been burned. And so, here I am, standing in the wreckage of what was once a life I thought I could trust. L'ennemi best friend gone. Mark me husband shattered. Everything I thought I knew about loyalty, love, and friendship has been turned upside down. The lies, the manipulation, the betrayal, it all cuts deeper than I ever imagined. I still don't have the answers. I don't know if there's any way to fix this, or if I even want to. The people I loved, the people I trusted the most, have proven that they weren't who I thought they were. And now, all I'm left with is pain and the haunting question of what comes next. But here's the real question that's been tearing me apart. If you were in my shoes, what would you do? Would you ever forgive Mark? Could you ever look at him the same way again after everything that's happened? What if he genuinely feels sorry? What if he's lost without me? Or do you think someone who betrays you like that doesn't deserve a second chance? And Lena, would you even want her back in your life? She's gone now, but if she reached out, would you want to rebuild a friendship? Or is it truly over? Was there ever really any friendship to begin with? Who's to blame here? Is it just Mark? Is it Lena? Or is it me? Did I miss the signs? Did I ignore the red flags because I was too trusting? And, more importantly, what would you do in my situation? I need your thoughts. Like this video if you've ever felt betrayed by someone you loved. Share it with someone who might relate. Subscribe if you believe even the hardest stories deserve to be heard. And please, leave a comment. Tell me, what would you do? Thank you for listening, for understanding, and for being part of this journey.